Welcome back to our second count right here on Reffing It Up. I am honored to welcome in two-time ICW heavyweight champion, the one, the only, the talented Mr. Joe Coffey. Joe, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me, gents.
Joe, thank you very much for joining the show, man. I actually look forward to this all week, man. How are you doing? You holding up good?
Yeah, holding up as well as can be. Going through a new visa process just now, so it can be very frustrating. We just have to wait for that clears. That means, unfortunately, we're landlocked in the US just now without being able to take bookings, or we can't leave to get back to Europe or go to Japan or wherever else that we might end up working. So doing okay, just channeling a lot of energy into training and everything else because I've never been out of condition for professional wrestling. So I just want to keep doing that basically.
So
So
what do
is
you?
that your is that sorry, Brian? Is that your goal to stay in the States and continue wrestling for one of obviously the other two companies, whether BTNA or
Yeah,
AEW or
yeah. Well, essentially, what I done before I signed with WWE, I was a world professional wrestler. I'd been out to Japan, been all over Europe, been to the States a few times. So I essentially just want to get back to that, rebuild my brand, tease a few different character stuff, and then see what happens. I'm a free agent just now. If there are any companies that want to talk, my ears are open, and I'm always willing to do business. So if ideally independents here, or if there's any companies on television that are interested, which I don't see why you shouldn't be. So that's the plan just now.
I love the confidence, man. I love the confidence. I really do. Um, so I
Well,
have to
that's
ask,
the thing. That's the thing about confidence. I'm 5'10" in height, but I'm 7 foot in confidence.
that's okay.
Even
That's
better.
right.
Yeah.
That's even better. So I have to let's go back for a minute. So your trailing career happened in Europe, right? That's where you were working many independent federations and things like that to get noticed, right? Or just at least to work in wrestling. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the thing. I broke in Scotland, and it's I didn't even think professional wrestling existed in Scotland. And I was at university at the time, and I was playing club rugby, which almost linked into like a professional setup, like a developmental setup, if you will, and
You
was
said
just
you
falling out.
said rugby, Joe. You said rugby.
Yeah, yeah, rugby.
Oh, that pussy sport. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, listen. American football, what you guys call football, don't talk to me about pussy sports. Helmets, pads, you play for 7 seconds at a time. Don't talk to me about that. If you've ever laced up a pair in the rugby field, you'd understand when I hit you just like
Joe, I was kidding, man. Calm down, kayfabe,
Oh,
brother.
geez.
Jeez.
No, but yeah. So I was playing rugby at the time, and one of my best friends, Stephen Kerr, who wrestled as Jackie Polo, who was Mark's original tag team partner, he said he found a wrestling school in Scotland, and I was like, no way, absolutely no way. And at that point, I've been a fan since I was age 4, like a proper fan, and I was like, I have to do this, and called my coach up at the time. I was like, hey, listen, I'm not coming back. And he was like, all right, okay, that's fine. Like, we'll miss you, blah, blah, blah. He's like, what is it you're going to do? And I was like, I'm going to be a professional wrestler. And he just laughed and he went, well, good luck with that. And I was like, no problem. So we found the training school and I was all in from that moment. Like, I was like, this is what I want to do. I've wanted to do it since I was age 4. So here we go.
So I'm not trying to hog the floor, guys, but just real quick to follow up on that. Have you noticed, or is it just me, or is it not a change? But isn't there more like European wrestlers, British wrestlers, Japanese wrestlers, more entwined in today's American wrestling than ever before? Because to me, it just feels like there are so many, you know, so many different genres of men and women that are from all over the world. Do you
Yeah.
feel that? Do you feel that as well?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you only have to look at the main roster on WWE, the amount of European talent that is on the roster. It's why WWE cemented their flag in the UK and created NXT UK. Maybe there's going to be an NXT Europe because there is so much talent right now, and when I got signed as well, it's like you can't not, you know, ignore this. That's why when I wrestled for ICW, we done 7,000 people in an arena that WWE only ran at the time, and AEW have a show in August 20th in Glasgow, the same arena. We were doing 7,000 people, and I was in the ring with Kurt Angle. That is unheard of at an independent level at that time. Like that could have been one of the biggest independent wrestling shows in history. It certainly was in the UK at the time. So there's so much talent that comes from the UK, and we're just taught different as well. I like so guys like I got to work with Fit Finlay, Robbie Brookside, John Moss, Norman Smiley, people like that, Dave Taylor, and obviously William Regal, who know that European pro wrestling style. And I think that really helps at a base level translate through to the rest of professional wrestling. It's why there's a lot of British coaches in the Performance Centre just now.
So Finley was good enough at that list, by the way. Huge fan of him. But why do you think now that it's being like so glamorized that you guys have so much talent over there? Like, why do you think that is? Because it wasn't like that as much before, right? I mean, a William Regal and a Fit Finlay weren't even like that. That was like a new thing back in WCW. And then even when Fit moved over to WWE, like, of course, William Regal was huge throughout his whole career. But I just don't understand why now, today in 2025, that we're seeing, in my opinion, maybe you can back further me this. I would say from 21 to 25 is when a bunch of you guys from that area came into the company, like a Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre obviously was there a long time, but I'm just saying, but you get more and more of you guys. Why do you think that is now as opposed to before?
I think it's the age we live in, actually. I think the world has got significantly a lot smaller. Everybody has access to a phone now. Everyone has access to a computer, and they can go on YouTube or whatever. I think the world's a lot smaller, and I think people start to realize that there is different things out there. So why not incorporate it in us? Like you only have to look at WWE just now, who all the companies are working with under Triple H, which would have been unheard of 20 years ago. I think there's so many different styles and so much talent out there that they have to, integrate it as well as a business thing as well. Like if there's something that's hot over there, I'm sure a major company goes, right, we're going to have a bit of that and we can go back and forth and we can take their best talent and whatever. I think really what it comes down to is world's a lot smaller and it's just good business.
It's amazing though, man. It really is.
So I was looking through your reels the other day there on Instagram, and I implore everybody that isn't to follow you on Instagram across all the social medias, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But I saw a video of you training with Bobby Fish.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I'm not going to mess with you either way, but I'm like, seeing that video, I'm like, holy crap. And Bobby still can go, man. And
Bobby's great.
But we talked about your wrestling career. We talked about with your rugby, but is something like a boxing or a mixed martial art or something like that? Is that something that, is in your mind saying, hey, if, first love obviously is wrestling, but if something were to come up and say, hey, person XYZ wants to, fight you a boxing match or something in Glasgow, hey, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, it's something I wouldn't be opposed to. And I'd linked up with Bobby just because I knew he's very good. He's a strike specialist, especially in pro wrestling. And because my schedule's a bit more relaxed just now, I was like, hey, I'd like to link up, do a couple of sessions. And I'd known Bobby from NXT and independently and stuff. So I was like, yeah, it sounds good. Just to keep the conditioning up. Like I've been boxing maybe 6 years, and the coach that I work with in Glasgow is a guy called Harry, and he works for WPD Gym in Glasgow. And when I was going through my visa process to come out to the States, I was boxing like 4 or 5 times a week. I love it because the cardio is so translatable to pro wrestling. Like, especially my style is like, especially if I'm a villain, I'm constantly moving, constantly selling. So it's good to have that translatable cardio. And it was just fun. Like, I don't want like I do love wrestling and wrestling training, but I want to save my body as well. And I felt that was a really, really good way of doing it and, channeling different energy into that. But as opposed to, I wouldn't be opposed to taking a fight. Like if the right opportunity came along and the right price, I would definitely consider it because I would treat it professionally and take the same energy of pro wrestling into that. But it probably wouldn't be a professional fight because I respect boxing too much to even consider being a professional at my age. Like the people who have boxed all their lives started when they were like a kid. So if it was if it was maybe like a KSI or something like that in the Misfits boxing promotion, I'd be more than happy. Be more than happy to do that.
Well, you know what? I'll say it right here. Joe Coffey, Jake Paul, Caesar's Palace. Let's go. No, I'm Joe. Well, hey, never say never. I guess
never say never in this business.
But going back and watching some of your stuff from ICW, man, I became a big fan of ICW going back to before you and your brother and Wolfgang came over to NXT to WWE because they had that surgence there. Well, like when you said they started the WWE NXT UK, and you see, like a Pete Dunne, you're starting to see a lot of these guys coming over, and it's just, is that something that you get all this visa stuff figured out? Is that something where you it's kind of like a homecoming kind of thing? Is that something that's in your rearview mirror or your front mirror, I guess?
Yeah, 100%. Like as I said, I want to be working all over the world. That's what I was doing before I'd signed with WWE. I am a professional wrestler. That's the reason why I get into this and will continue to do this. This was my first love, so I'm no doubt I will be back home. We've actually got a show already on the cards, Clan Wrestling, which is in Braehead Arena, which again was another WWE run venue. That's how much of a pull that pro wrestling has in Scotland. But ICW was one of the best companies to work for and one of the most fun times in pro wrestling. Like when it hit that boom period, you'd these companies like you'd ICW in Scotland, you had Rev Pro in London, you had Progress in London, you had Fight Club in Wolverhampton. Over the sea, you had OTT Wrestling in Ireland, and all these companies were just putting on these great events with top-notch pro wrestling. And I just want to go back to that, and also give back because I can give back my experience and what I've learned in my time here, but also to try further myself and just put on great matches again.
So, I do got a question about this. I think this is kind of interesting. You had the NXT UK and then of course NXT. What describe the difference for our listeners to like what that was like from the UK from going from the UK to the NXT we see here in the PC in Orlando. Like I'm sure I'm sure there's some similarities, but I'm pretty confident there was a lot of differences as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, for NXT UK, it was essentially a part-time schedule. It was probably the best like offshore job that you could get ever in pro wrestling. So the difference the difference was we could still do some independents that were kind of linked with WWE at the time because they ended up signing a deal for their network at the time, like ICW and WXW in Germany and Progress. We could still work for them, but you would go down to London and do 2 weeks training and then 2 days of TV tapings, which could be 6 episodes. And then you go home for 4 or 5 weeks and do it all again. But because it was all pro wrestlers there, like there wasn't any one from any other sport. It was all pro wrestlers. Like once that 2 weeks is finished and you got home in the Friday, you were like, once Sunday came, you're like, right, I want to get back on the road and I want to wrestle. So it could have been a bit frustrating that way, but I loved NXT UK. It was, I think, especially in that COVID era, it was the best professional wrestling product on the planet, and I'll hang my hat on that because the
Wow.
in-ring stuff, the in-ring stuff was great. It was just top notch. Like even like
No,
one
it's
of the
incredible.
shining,
I agree.
yeah, like one of the shining moments obviously was Ilya versus Gunther now, and like being in an empty arena, I felt as if it made me a better professional because you weren't waiting for crowd moments. You weren't waiting for, like taking that beat. You had to make it look as real as possible. And I thought that was another good string to our bow. It's like, hey, if there's ever someone I'm working with, it needs to be really aggressive and, it's more of a fight. It was really good for that. And it was just the best time because it was all our mates. Like we all come up together and you get a good drink after the TV taping. So
Yeah.
yeah. But moving over to NXT
Or
facility.
before, Joe.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Moving over to the NXT facility, it is a full-time job, which I love as well. Like you're in, you could be training. Like I think the first year that I got here, myself and Mark were training like 4 or 5 times a day. We get up and do our cardio in the morning. We get our lift in at the pre-C. You do an in-ring session. You maybe do a bit of skull, which is like match review, and then me and Mark would go do our own gym session. So like it was a very much you're treated like a professional athlete and a professional performer. So that was more the difference, but it was more full on and every single day, which I'm not shy of putting a bit of work in and putting the graft in. So because there was some quotes going about on like the internet that a bunch of people got released because they were lazy. I ain't lazy, and if you look at my social media, you can clearly see I'm not lazy. I'm not shy of putting the work in because I'm a professional wrestler. I didn't get here through an Instagram DM. I didn't get here because I'd done another sport. I got here because I was a professional wrestler.
So, Joe, I have to say first of all, being a referee, not that you don't need it, but we don't go to the gym to do it, and fuck cardio.
I mean, I agree. Once I'd done 60 minutes in the Stairmaster day, and I was thinking the exact same thing at 59 minutes.
Yeah, I 60 minutes. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'd be dead. But I stay in shape, bro. Just cardio and legs. Do we have legs?
It's an upper body. As Rick Rude said, it's an upper body business. Kid.
That's right. That's right. So, let's talk about your brother real quick, Mark.
Yeah.
So are you guys? What's your age difference?
2 years.
2 years. He's younger or older?
He's younger. He's the good-looking one.
He's the good.
That's great.
Hey, you said it. I didn't. So, I mean, what kind of satisfaction, though? Honestly, think about this. I'm a Hebner. My dad's Earl. The satisfaction of working a pay-per-view together is a huge thing. It was memories that you never forget. Like, how do you feel when you get to work with your brother doing a tag team match, and showcasing both of you and your abilities like together as brothers? That's got to be special, right?
Oh, 100%. I think any family, orientation in pro wrestling is going to be special because you're doing it with someone that you grew up with. And like, as I said, like we were fans since we were like really, really small, like tiny wee boys. And that's all we done. Like the amount of like stuff that get broken in my mum and dad's house, beds. I remember I picked Mark up for a razor's edge and just boom on the bed, that was broken. The amount of walls we went through. Like I remember like going through a coffee table in my mum and dad's house because we both had lime green cycling shorts in the 90s, of course. And
Joe,
we thought,
Joe, that sounds like me and my kids right now, except it's not about practicing moves. It's me disciplining. But go ahead.
Well, like one of our favorite VHSs growing up was World Tour 89-90, and there's one of the most entertaining tag matches in the Rockers versus the Rougeos. And like the Rockers are wearing these lime green tights, and we had like lime green. Well, like just pretending to be the Rockers and dropping elbows through coffee tables and that. So yeah, it's always special. Like sometimes you think because you're always looking to the next thing, you forget how special it is. But you like as I said, like growing up, that's all we wanted to do and always talked about and always thought about. So you have those moments where you go like, this is pretty cool. One of the most satisfying moments for me was I think Mark and Wolfie had a tag match on the Great American Bash to Stax and Tony D'Angelo. And Mark and Wolfie lost the match, but the reaction of the crowd, I was on the outside and I'd done some like gaga and get punched, and I was just selling in the outside and listening to the reaction that they got because Mark and Wolfie were such good villains. The crowd reacted so well and popped so big for seeing, the baby faces go over. And I was like, proud of Mark and Wolfie at that point. I was like, do you know what? Like we've really done our job as villains, and I think that's important because I don't think there's a lot of that in pro wrestling anymore. People acting villain or babyface, like true proper professionals. The reaction for the babyface, I was like, yep, they've done their job, and we've done our job as a group to help create this reaction.
I'll tell you what, let's there's so much more we got to talk about, and we're gonna do that. We're gonna take a break here, go into our third count. When we get to our third count, I'm gonna ask you a couple questions, some fan questions. I gotta ask you a Trent Seven question, so we'll save that.
Sure, no problem.
I need a Trent Seven story. I need a Trent Seven story. We'll start that on our third count. Let's take it on up to our third count.
This is your 3 count.
All right, we're back here in our third count. I'm roughing it up with former WB superstar Joe Coffey. Joe, someone that got to work pretty closely over the last year and a half with Trent Seven at TNA. Yeah. I do have to. You know what? This guy can put it down. He can kind of drink people under the table. I got to know. Do you have any Trent Seven stories that you can share here that not embarrassing, but just maybe even put him over. Maybe put him over.
How do you know, Daniel? How does Daniel know?
I'll do nothing but put Trent over. Love Trent. We've worked a bunch in the ring together. Always a good chemistry. He's so charismatic. How can you not like him? I've got two good Trent Seven stories. So there was a NXT UK TV taping in Plymouth, and I think we'd done a dark match after the taping, and it was Gallus versus British Strong Style at the time, I think, and it was, or maybe it wasn't. It was, it was Travis Banks, Tyler, and Trent. So we finished the dark segment, and there was a ref bump in it, and we just thought that the ref was going to get back up in a later spot, but I'm out selling, and I just see this person run by in a referee's shirt, and it was Shawn Michaels. So whatever happens, and then Shawn counts the 3, big reaction. And I was just thinking, was that Shawn Michaels? And then Trent is looking over at me, and me and Mark are thinking the same thing. We are thinking super kicks. We're thinking sweet chin music. So we're like looking at Trent going, ask him. So then Trent asked him, and then he turns around and he's like, super kicks, bring in super kicks. So we all run out and take a couple of super kicks. But Trent's great, and obviously when we're on those ICW tours, we had a proper tour bus and everything. Like, thought we were all weekend rock stars, and you'd go out after the show. And I remember we'd done a show in Cardiff, and then we travelled, or done a show in Newport and travelled to Cardiff. I can't remember either way. And we ended up in this big club, and I just remember me and Trent Seven in a drum and bass, like, EDM room, just dancing about, have a couple of drinks. And then the DJ has recognised Trent. Of course he has. Like, Trent's got hookups and connections everywhere. And he's like, oh, come on over. So we go in the booth, and I'm wrecked at this point. I'm like, I just want my bed. And I noticed the DJ had a microphone. I was like, can I go on the microphone? And Trent's like, do it, Babs. Do it, get on the mic. So I get on the mic, and I'm trying to MC over this drum and bass. It was just an absolute disaster, but it's just, I was with Trent, so it was a fun time.
Yeah. So I do have a question. Have you ever played Mafia with Trent Seven?
Yes, of course. Like any bus ride.
Yeah.
And actually, it translated over to NXT as well in America.
Yeah.
I think a couple of the British guys had brought it over. I don't know where the game's from, but
it's amazing. He's by far the greatest commentator of that, like narrator of that game ever.
All right, Daniel, explain this to me. What are we talking about here?
Mafia. It's so basically it's a game where you have townsmen, you have mafia, you have a sheriff, you have a doctor. Is there one I'm missing? I think that's it, right? you have all these different people, but you don't know who they are, and it's like a clue game. You're trying to figure out who the mafia is. So you can basically kill them and get them out and save the town. But there's rounds you play, and somebody gets killed basically, and you're trying to.
You're talking about with regular. Are you talking about with regular people?
Just regular people. It's people. It's a group game.
Y'all did this in the locker room?
No, we do this in the lobby of the hotel. You do this in the locker room. You do this anywhere, wherever
I'm thinking,
you can
what the fuck is going on in your locker room?
No.
Listen, Brian, I know what you're thinking. Why are these people not in the bar?
Yes.
Trust me. There's drinks all around. Everyone's drinking. It's a drinking game.
I couldn't play that sober.
It's a drinking game. Yeah, you could, but it's you got to also be quiet. You can't like talk until you're told to talk because you can give away things. It's amazing fun bonding game. And Trent Seven's by far the best narrator of this game I've ever. So I was curious if he did it there because he brought it to TNA, and we haven't done it since he left because we can't. You just can't do it without Trent.
That's crazy. That's so crazy. So Joe. So I want you to explain to me if you were part of the group, the Gallus that helped train The Rock.
Yes, yeah, all three of us were asked to help train The Rock for.
So you were there in the ring helping train The Rock.
Yeah, correct.
Talk about that for me, buddy.
I mean, it was a ridiculous experience because.
So was it? All right, so Joe, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off because I'm getting excited. I can't believe you were part of it. I wasn't sure. So you mean that you were asked to do something, and all of a sudden, one day, you're preparing and you're ready, and in comes The Rock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go.
So myself and Mark were getting a gym session in before we went into the PC.
You better.
And of course. So we're getting a session in, but my parents had come out to visit for 10 days and they get in the night before. So I'm sitting and we were going to go to Universal on the Wednesday after TV or something. So I've just sat and I've paid $600 for Universal tickets for all of us. And then I got a text through and I thought, that'll just be the confirmation. And it was a text from Matt Bloom saying, hey guys, pack your bags, you're off it to LA to train with The Rock. So my initial reaction was, I've just spent $600 on tickets.
Well, that proves, Joe, you're not a mark.
Yeah, and definitely a Scottish guy as well. So I was just like, no. I was at first I was like, this is because we've got a really good relationship with Matt Bloom, and he done a hell of a lot for us career wise. Just a great guy, and I was thinking I'm waiting for the punchline. I'm waiting for the rib, and then like Wolfie texts back going, "Is this a rib?" And then me and Mark are looking at each other, and this is for someone else. And he texts back, no, I'm serious, like, you guys are flying out. And then, like, me and my brother just sat there for like a couple of minutes going, this is crazy. Like, as I said, like, coming from Glasgow in Scotland where I thought there was zero professional wrestling, to be asked to be flown out to the LA to help The Rock for, like, the biggest WrestleMania match at that point. So it was great. We got our bags packed and we were sitting waiting and we were like, I wonder where we're going. We've not had any text about travel. And it was like 4 o'clock at this point, and we got a text like, should we text? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, hey guys, your flight was supposed to be 4 o'clock, but just head to the airport and you'll get the next one. I'm like, okay, no problem. So we got to LA, checked into hotel downtown, just went a little wander, and then thought we'll get an early night. And the next day we get a text because it was supposed to start the first day's training. I think there was like travel issues from Raw or something. So
all right, Joe, sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
So you flew into LAX from Florida?
Yeah.
Did you fly out of Orlando?
Fly out of Orlando, yeah, NCO.
Okay. Who picked you up at the airport?
I
Did
think
you have a limo?
No, I think we just got an Uber or something. Like,
see that, man, you're screwed. It's so much cooler. All right, go ahead. I thought you were going to give me some good shit, but I mean, you still are. But so you and your brother rented a car?
No, actually, I think we had no, sorry, I tell a lie, we had a car rented for us. So that was pretty cool. You know what I mean? Like, it was.
Oh, so they had a car for you. Somebody picked you up.
Yeah, they did. Sorry, they had like a rental for us, and we just drove to the to the hotel. Yeah, with a nice big pickup truck. So
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'll shut the
yeah,
fuck up. Go ahead.
that was good with me. And then so the first day we were supposed to train, but unfortunately there was travel issues from Raw, so we just got to have like a day about Los Angeles and just done all the tourist stuff, like went to Hollywood Walk of Fame and Santa Monica Beach, and like I'm a big film buff, so like I was down Venice Beach and seeing like Muscle Beach and like where Lords of Dogtown was shot and white men
Yeah.
can't jump, white men
Yeah.
can't jump and stuff. So, and then the next day was the first of a few days of training. So we pull up. I'm certain it was in Compton. It was just this little warehouse in Compton. Like you
Mhm.
wouldn't have thought anything was happening. And I think obviously they kept it that way because they didn't want press or keep it off the beaten track to avoid anything. So he pulls in, and I'm like, this can't be the place. Like I'm just nah. And it honestly felt like you were going to meet the Avengers or something, like because it's The Rock. So we go in, and Rock's security guy Walt is there, and great guy. Just get chatting to him. We got changed, got the boots on, we're just ready, and then Michael Hayes came in, Bobby Roode, because I think they were producing the match. Chad Patton, referee,
Yeah.
and Larry, the trainer. And we're just waiting on The Rock, and then you hear the pickup truck pull up, and it's The Rock. And as he walks in, it's The Rock. He's got a presence, he's got an aura. But like, I just kind of try to treat it like it's another pro wrestler. You try your best, but you still realize it's The Rock.
All right,
So
Joe.
eventually,
Joe, I know I said I'd shut the fuck up. I can't.
no, by all means.
Okay, so what did The Rock come in? What vehicle was he in? Was he in his own vehicle? Did he have a car
It's
service?
a big old truck. He said he.
Yeah, it's just a
No,
I think it was
I
just a
mean,
big-
but like what kind?
I think he was driving. I don't know what truck it was. I'm not sure. I'm sure it would have been a very good one, but
It's like an F 350. He has to deal with Ford, so it's like an F 350 or something. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Tinted windows and all that shit. Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
of course, yeah. So he pulls up, and then we're getting our boots on, and he's getting stretched off, and that. I just went up to him and I went, "So what do you want to do?" And he went, "I don't really know." And I was like, "Well, we'll just get in and we'll roll about for a bit." Because being from Glasgow, like the word Gallus means like bold, confident, cocky. So I'm just like, let's go. Like I'm excited. I'm excited to get in and work with The Rock in the ring because I might never get that chance. Probably not. So we go in, and then like we start putting the match together. It was a tag team match, which it was Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes against Rock and Roman. So we're all playing the different parts. I'm Seth, Mark's Cody, Wolfie is Roman Reigns, and The Rock is The Rock. And it was a lot of fun. Like it was just a lot of fun, and we're just helping. And then like after like the first couple of days, like we know our place, and like we're very professional. Like we're not going to pitch into someone else's match. But to be fair, like Bobby Roode and like The Rock said, if you do guys have any suggestions, please like feel free. So it was really nice professionally to be treated like that. And we did say a couple of things which little bits did get in the match, which was really cool. And it was a great tag match, and that whole storyline was just great. And it was just like we weren't a part of it, but it was just nice to be a part of helping, The Rock prepare for that. And
Joe, Joe, I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off. I'm so sorry.
No, don't be silly.
I'm very into this. So I don't understand because like you have to explain. You don't have to open the curtain so much, but well, you're not any of these guys. Nobody's any of these guys except The Rock's The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
No one's Cody Rhodes. You know what I mean? Like, all right. So how does he learn from this? Like, so in other words, how is The Rock getting trained for his match at WrestleMania with three guys in a ring that he's not even working with?
Well, I think like essentially they would have had the bones of the match, and they'd have just been slotting things in. But all these guys are the top professionals in the world, so I think it's more just visualization. Like I'm the same. Like if I'm at the performance center and someone wants to go through the match 20 times, I don't want to do that. I just want to visualize it. I don't want to do it step by step because I like organic wrestling. I don't think there's enough of it. And I would just rather visualize than go through it. It's just not my process. It's not how I've been brought up to do professional wrestling. So I think it was more, I think Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, I think Paul Heyman and Seth were supposed to be there at some point, but again, their schedules are so crazy. I think it was more just for The Rock to get reps and just, shake off some ring rust and for him just to visualize it as well. And one thing I will say, which was really cool, like when we were about to lock up, we locked up and then like took a head shot off tackle. Watching The Rock account for the reaction, it's a different that main event, that top main event level. It's something I strive towards. Like everyone dreams of being, that over where you can really take your time, and it was just really cool to watch that process.
Very interesting, man. That's got to be a career highlight.
Oh, definitely. And like he couldn't have been nicer to us. Even like the last day of training, I think we flew out at maybe 4 o'clock or something. He asked like, when do you guys fly out? And like saying that, he went, let's bring training forward so you guys will get good time to make the airport. Like just he's as humble as he comes across in interviews. We got paid on top of our salary for it. We arrived home and there was £3,500 worth of dollars of the new Under Armour Project Rock line. It's a big case of Terramana, a nice note from him. You couldn't ask for any more. Just a top experience.
Wow.
So, we know that recently, obviously, we kind of alluded to this earlier, that you were part of the releases that happened, what they unfortunately call Black Friday. Tell us about that, your experience, and not that you don't have to go too deep if you want to, but a little bit about that, how that came about, the phone call, the whole experience there, and then of course. You kind of alluded to it earlier, but kind of what your process is now, what you're doing to kind of, look for the next steps in your career.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. It happens, and it's the nature of the business. I'd literally just finished an hour on the Stairmaster. So I was like delighted that was finished. And then I got the number from Connecticut, and I just, and you're just like, oh, well. And it was pretty short on the conversation because I was just frustrated about it. My brother was sitting outside. He just finished the gym session and he was in the car and he had the door open. I went, well, I've just been released. So if you get released, I'm sorry. If not, good luck and stay on and smash. So I was a bit angry about it, went home and I think more just a bit bitter and frustrated at the way it planned out because moving your life over here from overseas isn't an easy task.
Right.
And I'm always thankful for WWE and NXT for the opportunity. Learned so much. It was great. All the staff there are fantastic. The coaches are top notch. I can't say enough good things. I just wish things had panned out a little bit differently. And we heard for a long time we maybe going to the main roster and doing something with Drew. Who knows? I understand Drew is on the run of a career and is doing some amazing stuff. But like we had like little teases of it, like we were in the Survivor Series program and the Royal Rumble program as Gallus, the only NXT people, and we're like, that's really strange. Like, and a lot of people were talking about it, and we thought, well, maybe it's going to happen soon, but it didn't happen. It was just a little bit frustrating. And for myself, I feel a little bit personally frustrated because I feel as if I didn't get to scratch the surface of what I can do in NXT. We were holding a lot of hands at times, which is totally fine. And there's a lot of people who aren't from this world who are trying to learn, and we were, essentially helping teach them in the ring. So it was just a little bit frustrating, especially the body of work that I'd done up until then for NXT UK, and I'd been on takeovers and featured on TV quite a lot to my independent career, where all over Europe I was doing main events after main event, and was very much comfortable with that. So I was a little bit frustrated that way, but it's one of these things, and it's just on to the next chapter. If I ever make my way back there, I'd like to think that we're in great terms. I was always very professional. Sometimes maybe a bit too professional and not being selfish enough. But, unfortunately that falls under the good little soldier, category, which is a shame. But, like even throwing it back there to the WrestleMania weekend with The Rock, we were seen as very professional. We have done this job. We're very mature. And I think that's one of the reasons why we get sent there, because we're very reliable, we're very safe, and we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, Joe, real quick, I know this sounds horrible, but I don't mean it to be horrible. But if there's ever a good time to be released, would you say now with the business that's flourishing the way it is, where so many options are out there? Like when I was released, okay, it was god awful. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. It was something I thought about. I was a very bitter guy. I hated pro wrestling. It pissed me off. Johnny Ace could have sucked my dick at that time. I didn't care. I'm being dead honest, man. But it took me some time to grow and experience like what it was without wrestling. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the fame. It was just about the passion that I had for what I wanted to do for my life. And it's never easy, and it's a very difficult thing. And some people handle it differently. And I feel like talking to you tonight that I think you are handling it much different than I did. You don't seem pissed off at wrestling. You just seem like you want to, like there's a rocket that's up your ass that you want to shoot off and just say, y'all missed out. You missed up. And that's awesome, dude. And but my point back to what I was getting at is there's so many options: AEW, TNA, MLW, NWA. If the States is even what you want to do. But what I'm saying is it's not a bad time to be released. It's never a good time, but
Yeah.
it's a better time for sure, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like, Europe is on the rise again. I think after COVID, it took a hit, and it wasn't like it was before, like when I was working the independents. But now there's so much talent coming out of there, and companies thriving, and in the States as well. There's a lot of people who I'd be open to working with and love that. Same, I would love to get back to Japan. I had some time out in 01 in Japan. If Japan was an option as well, even Mexico. I just want to like hit every continent. I was a world traveled professional, and that's essentially what want to get back to doing. There's never a good time to get released. There isn't, but you've just got to make it work for you. I get my angry moments. I do. Like it's only human. It's only natural to do that because I know my capabilities and I know what I'm capable of in the ring, and especially on a microphone, which I didn't feel as if I got enough, time on microphone or promos, um, in NXT. But that's just the way the show works. There's so much to go into it. I just know, like, if I'm given the opportunity, then all I need is the opportunity.
What was the reason they gave you? Just cuts?
Yeah, there wasn't really a reason. I didn't stay on the phone long enough to find out a reason, to be honest, because it's not going to change. That's the decision. It's not going to change. So, but as I said, I've seen like internet rumors saying like people were lazy and stuff. Like that's just lazy journalism. That's really lazy journalism, to be honest.
Yeah,
And this is someone who studied law and journalism in university. It's just bad journalism. It's lazy. It's just clickbait. Um, but there wasn't really a specific release. I don't know, maybe like we were on a decent contract, so maybe it was a budget cut or whatever. Maybe they didn't have anything in the main roster for us. I don't really know. I didn't speculate on it, and I didn't stay on the phone long enough to find out. Once that was done, I was like, okay, we have to start thinking about what's next.
So, Joe, were you surprised?
50-50, to be honest. Like, we've been off NXT TV since December, and we were doing Evolve, which is like another kind of offshoot show of NXT to help younger talent. And we'd been asked, hey, look, we need some experience on this show. And we're like, yeah, no problem. More than happy to. Like, we just want to work. I would work every show every night if I could, twice on Sunday. So we kind of cooled off on TV for a little bit when we'd been brought back, and it was really good and really receptive. But then we're kept off, and you do start to think like, could get released here. So it's always in the back of your mind. So, but knowing what I can offer, I was not shocked, but just disappointed. I was like, you've maybe missed a trick here.
Were you doing the coconut loops as well?
Yeah, doing the coconut loops. Like we would ask to be on every single live event. I loved the live events because it felt like I understand the way business is, and I know there's not enough live events now, but I think that's the only place you're going to learn. You can be in a pro wrestling ring in a facility anywhere. The only way you're going to know is by going out and, working in front of an audience. This works. That didn't. This town likes this. This town doesn't. It's like I would love the live events. Like me, Mark, and Wolfie would travel, and maybe the odd time a couple of people like Noam would jump in. I would love it because you're just talking shop. It's the way pro wrestling should be. You
Mhm.
know, I feel as if I was born far too late for. I felt my era might be the 80s and 90s because that's all I want to do is I want to talk business. I want to, rebook stuff. How would you do this? How would you do that? So yeah, we're still doing the live events, and I love them.
So, quick question. So, as a wrestler, all right, and there's no right or wrong answer. You get an offer from AEW for some money, right?
Mhm.
You get an offer for TNA, not as much money, but money that's considered, and an offer from NWA, which is much less than the last two I just mentioned.
Yeah.
But there's a guarantee, like say, for instance, in a TNA where they go, we want to push you to the moon. We want to really do something with you. AEW just says, hey, they just want to, bring you on. You're all elite, brother. What do you do as an athlete then? Like, so is that something you go, you tell me, how do
I
you
think
negotiate that?
I think I'd have to negotiate with both companies. Like, what do you see? What are your plans? And I think I just have to make a decision then. Like, I need all the variables in front of me, but I would have to say to both, like, I want to wrestle. I want to
Yeah.
wrestle, and I want to wrestle your best because that was the thing about NXT as well. Like, I loved it, absolutely loved it, but there wasn't many more people experienced than Gallus at that level, and I felt as if the only way I'm going to get better as a performer is to go work with people who are more experienced and have that you know longevity that they've been doing this a long time, and hey, maybe not do this or whatever. So I just have to see the variables, but I'm more than open to working with any of them. AEW have a show in my hometown in Glasgow in August 20th, which is very interesting in the Hydro, the same arena that ICW ran. So that's
Wow.
very interesting. And TNA is doing great stuff, and you can only see that it's been recognised. There's so many amazing performers in TNA. I'm friends with a lot of them, and when there was the crossover with NXT, I got to work with Joe Henry, who I've known for a long, long time, and so happy to see how he is doing. And we'd wrestled a bunch back in the UK, and then worked with guys like when the Rascals had a reunion. Like it was just good.
Mhm.
Like again, you're in with professional wrestlers, so
Right.
um, I'd be more than happy to listen to any offer.
Well, Joe, we have reached the spot in our show that we hate each and every week because you've been so fun. This has been awesome. But again, we don't want to mess your cardio up. So here's the time for you to take the floor. Me, Daniel, and RJ will STF you and let you put all your socials out and anything you got coming up. And the floor is yours, my man.
Okay, well, just before we sign off, I know this show's called Reffing Up, and I will say this, which I don't think is enough credit. A great professional referee is part of the match and makes the
Yes.
match what it is because I talk non-stop in the ring and I love to pass messages. It's a bit different on TV, but if it's a live event or when I was in Independence, I'd be constantly talking to the ref because I'd like to hear what the crowd's wanting. I'm going to go, no, tell him to do this or don't cut that, change this or whatever. So I will say thank you very much because it's always a pleasure to have a great professional. And I've worked with so many great professional referees where
So
some
Joe,
like I,
Joe, you kind of put your foot in your mouth there now. Ready?
Uh-oh.
No, not a bad thing. Is there any referee that you can name that was, I guess, at NXT or even NXT? What is it called?
UK.
UK.
That you can really put over and say they're going to be a good ref or are a good ref? I want to try and put a referee over, and then I want to bury one, of course, too.
I'll put a few referees because I've had a few requests to be put over. So Sean McLaughlin and Thomas Cairns, who were ICW's referee, loved them because I could constantly talk and we could just tell jokes as well and we try and make each other laugh. In NXT UK, there was Joe, Tom, who else? God, I've gone a blank here.
How was that girl over there?
Rich.
She got released too.
Yeah, God, I'm trying to remember her name. French. She's going to kill me.
Artemis? You talking about Artemis?
Artemis,
Yeah.
Artemis,
Yeah, yeah.
Artemis. Yeah, they were Artemis. Yeah, they were all great to work with again because we came in from professional wrestling, so we all knew each other and we'd all worked with each other previous on different independents. And then in WWE's roster, we get Daryl, Da, Joey Gonzalez, who I'm really good friends with, Tom Caster, Felix, Vicky, Gary. Like, they're all great. And then some of the main roster guys that we had interactions with, like Chad, and know Eddie Orengo very well. Like, it's all just a pleasure to work with because it makes our lives easier as performers to pass messages on, or for them to pass messages on to us.
All right. Well, who's rotten? Come on.
I don't think I've had a. I'm trying to think. Maybe in the independents.
Look, you've already put over that you're from Scotland.
Well, what about my boy Chris Sharp? Chris Sharp.
Oh shit! Sorry, I cannot believe I'm a Sharpie. I cannot believe that.
Yeah.
Again, but it's a good thing because then he gets a special mention. No, I've known Sharpie for a long.
I see how you work.
Yeah, I'm always putting people over. I'm a professional,
right.
But I've known Sharpie for ages as well. Again, he was on the UK scene as well.
All right, well, you're from Scotland. You've already said you don't give a shit about a lot of things. You work with The Rock and just asked him, what do you want to do? All right, so what referee? Bury somebody. Come on.
He said some independents. He said somebody on the independents. That makes sense. I can see that.
Well, that doesn't help.
Okay. I'm trying to think. You put me on the spot. I'm trying to think of someone who's really not that good.
You never work with Brian Hebner, so you can't say his name as being the shits. So that's what it is.
If you work with Brian Hebner, you would think everybody was the shits.
Yeah, I will say this: that referee Sean in ICW, he let out the smelliest fart I've ever smelled. Well, it wasn't me.
Wow.
My brother was in the ring with Kenny Williams, and he's putting the heat on and stuff. But Kenny's laughing and he's killing himself, and Mark thinks he's farted. This is stinking. Boom, boom, boom. And then Sean come up at the end. He went, "See that fart? That was me, by the way."
That's great. All right, go ahead and put yourself over, kid.
Okay, guys, so I'm available at joecoffey.wrestling@hotmail.com for bookings, appearances, and seminars and signings. I'm on Instagram at joecoffey88. I'm on X, or Twitter as it was called, as at joe_coffee, and I'm on TikTok at joecoffey88.
You must have listened to our show before because you quickly said X, but what used to be known as Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got a boy.
Yeah.
Well, bro, we wish you nothing but success, and obviously it's coming to you. And, man, you know what? I have a lot of friends, a lot, that have been released from multiple companies that have found success outside of WWE, and some are so happy that they were released. Do you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
Are moving on. And I can tell you, man, a guy like you who works as hard as you say you do, which I can only believe. And I just, seeing your Instagram stuff too, as well. I mean, I think you're going to be fine. I really do. And I think you're going to find life to be a lot better, man. And don't be like me, that bitter, mad guy who I almost took 2.5, almost 3 years off because I was so pissed. I got offers everywhere. Didn't care. I didn't give a fuck. I was so mad. Don't do it. Don't handle it like that. That's not the proper way to do it because you're wasting time. You know what I mean?
Of course.
But you're going to be good. You're going to be fine. I think you are.
Well, time is the only valuable commodity that we have, so I'll be making sure to use it wisely.
Awesome. And when you're a big star somewhere, anywhere, you better agree to do our show again. Okay. Don't kayfabe me.
It's been honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure, and that's what I said. Like, I love talking shop and talking about the business and the industry.
Well, thank you, buddy. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.